I hope you do too, because I do not want the Notre Dame coming back to the top of college football will be like the Dallas Cowboys coming back on top of the NFL.
Is anybody?
So here we are, Dirk. We're not going to bore you with commentary on whether or not it's even college football anymore. What we are here to do is break down the semifinal matchups, which everyone wants to see. And it's 4 traditional powers. Here we go.
Big
Austin
surprise.
Powers. By that I mean Austin, Texas. Is there anyone in the field that can stop the Buckeyes?
No. And
No.
when you have the best roster that money can buy, you're gonna win the championship. It's kind of like if Steinbrenner was running the college football right now. And this is why there is so much of a hot seat placed on the Ohio State head coaching position right now. Is because anything less than a national championship quite literally is a loss and a disappointment. And even winning this year is kind of like an expectation.
Right,
I mean,
right.
What is it? Like the athletics department at Ohio State is something ridiculous, like $350 million. And it's the same thing in Texas too.
Right.
And I just don't know. Yeah, they underperformed earlier this year, but you saw what that roster can put together in the last couple of games.
Right.
Holy cow. I don't know that there's anybody. I think they would beat Carolina, the Browns. They would beat
No,
the
they
Giants
would not.
for sure.
They would not. There's absolutely no chance they would do any of those things.
Okay.
But
But-
your point is made. Yes, it's
And
a,
then
it's a
here's
very
the next
talented
question.
team.
After Ohio State wins by 20 points, okay,
Yeah.
is there going to be now a debate about how they started Quinn Ewers and if they would have started Manning, how Texas would have won? Because
I'm
you
sure.
heard that already going on last
Yeah.
game.
I'm sure the debate will start. Here's what this comes down to, Dirk. It's that if you have 2 NFL caliber receivers, particularly Jeremiah Smith is going to be potentially like a top 5 receiver. I mean, he's got that Jamar Chase, Jefferson level of talent. You know what I mean? Their college cornerbacks are not matching up with that, and then you throw in a second receiver. It just opens the door for Henderson on the spread option to run for 150 or 200 yards. Texas just gave up a bunch of yards on the ground against Arizona State. It just doesn't bode well. The only way Texas wins this game is absolutely abysmal quarterback play from Ohio State. And there is an off chance that could happen, Dirk. There is an off chance. Texas has a good defensive roster. It's not as talent heavy as Penn State at the top, but it is good. There is a lot of NFL talent on it. But there isn't NFL talent that can match up with those 2 receivers. And the problem? Ohio State is getting Alabama's freshman wide receiver as a transfer next year to pair up with Smith, who will be back. So you might be looking at a repeat of this next year, too, for the Buckeyes. This is what college football is going to be. Penn State and Notre Dame in a classic clash of Midwestern football powers. And then we've got Texas and Ohio State. And the first game of those 2 is Penn State and Notre Dame. And Dirk, it's an interesting matchup. Notre Dame favored by about 1.5, but this is pretty much a push, right? So what do you see in this one, and what are you watching for?
Penn State Notre Dame is actually the more interesting matchup to me.
Yeah.
And I do think Penn State is going to win this. They have
Oh.
an edge rusher. That might be the likes of Myles Garrett. Like,
Wow.
not only that, I like what Franklin's done with the offense. I like where the defense is playing. I just think that they are a better team overall.
Here's the devil's advocate, Dirk. When you're talking the Penn State offense, Andy Kotelnicki and James Franklin are running the ball for 11 yards a carry, and then they decide it's time for class picture time and get all cute and start dialing up trick plays.
Well, they won't have to get cute here because there's a porous defense that they're going to run holes through.
Notre Dame is not a porous defense. They're a very good
In this
defense.
game, it will be.
I think this one is a tricky one, Dirk. I think Penn State at the top, they're a more top-heavy team. I agree with you that Abdul Carter is top 3 NFL prospects. Tyler Warren is a great NFL prospect.
I think he's top. Abdul Carter's my top.
He's your number 1 prospect.
Yes, that's because I want him to go to the Browns.
I think actually, if you look at his age and his development, next year Drew Aller might be a top 5 NFL prospect too. So I would say Penn State at the top has more NFL talent. But where Notre Dame gets into this game is on its offensive line, a really good offensive line for the Fighting Irish, and a really solid defense. I think this one, it goes with the old adage, Dirk. It's bored and it's tired, but it's going to come down to turnovers. Whoever takes care of the ball in this game is going to win the game. It's going to be that close.
I'm just going to tell you, the measurement has always been 3. And it doesn't matter who you play. It's one of those things like, hey, if you score more points than the other team, you're going to win the game. That's that tired adage. Yeah, of course if you turn over. Name me a team that's turned over the ball more than 4 times and won like a legitimate championship.
We just saw this happen recently, actually, and I'm trying to think of what it was. There was a team that turned it over 5 times and won the game. I think it was in the
How
NFL.
many is the other team? Like,
None.
what is it, a wash ball?
It was wild.
And
Yeah,
who are they playing? The Bears?
It was something like that. We'll have to fact check that, but I'm going to go with Notre Dame by a hair in this one, Dirk, just for devil's advocate's sake. We'll go 20-17 Fighting Irish. Would not be shocked if it goes the other way and Penn State pulls it out. Don't think it's going to be a blowout.
Going Irish. Wow, Mike.
We're going with the upset. Not the upset. They're the favorite. What am I talking about? Notre Dame over Penn State in this one.
I don't get it, though.
We'll see.
I just don't get it. And maybe it's because I really haven't. Here's my caveat to my pick, Mike.
Yeah.
I really haven't followed Notre Dame. You know, it's hard to follow teams like that, especially when it's their first year in the new conference system, right? I find it hard to follow Notre Dame. I just do. And not only that, I mean, they're playing teams like Navy, right? Or not Navy, it was Army, right?
They beat both.
They beat both. Okay, so anyways, the point there being is that how do you compare those teams? Because no one runs offenses like that. How many times do you go against it? I mean, it shows the diversity that your defense can handle, the stress you can handle, that you're not just going to power run the ball through them. Do you know what I'm saying? However, I just have a hard time predicting this one. I'm going with the trend line, and I just like the roster of Penn State that much. That's why I'm picking.
I mean, here's the thing, though. Notre Dame has to be at least somewhat good in the trenches because, yes, Georgia did not have a competent or capable quarterback, but there's still tons of talent on the Georgia team.
That's hard.
Notre Dame hung in there.
They scored 10 points, right? Georgia scored 10 points.
They did.
It was a backup quarterback. Yeah, okay, so a backup quarterback in the SEC, especially on Georgia. What does that mean? Probably still a top caliber, but in a game like that, not everybody's Tua. Not everybody's Tua that you can throw in at halftime and say, hey, Jalen, I know you've been playing great, and it was okay in this championship game, but we're going to throw you in.
Yeah. I'm
just saying, Mike, I find it really hard to believe that Notre Dame is quite as good as everybody is saying, and I hope I get proven wrong.
Yeah, I hope you do too, because I do not want Notre Dame coming back to the top of college football will be like the Dallas Cowboys coming back on top of the NFL.
Is anybody named Rudy on that roster?
Oh my God.
Just
hired guns.
We got this aside.
Yeah.
Looking forward, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in coming weeks, but my prediction is that this is going to be the best best chance if you're a non-power 2, non-power 3 conference to get into this in a decent spot. There's no chance next year Boise State will have a first-round bye. They won't allow that type of seeding to happen again. No. And you're going to see an increase, if anything, from the SEC, from the Big 12, from the Big 10. I think those conferences are going to put an overwhelming amount of pressure on the committee to say, we have to have more seats at the table. Look at the results of these games and how atrocious that first round, and even frankly the second round really was. Outside of the Texas game, I mean, the second round wasn't even fun at all.
Well, next year, Boise State in the Pac.
Yeah, but I still think they're going to look at the Pac conference, and that's a mid. That is not a Power 5 conference. I don't care what anybody says. You can't take the Mountain West as it is right now and take, the cream of the crop from the Mountain West and call it a Power 5 when you can't even get 8 teams or 10 teams.
Right.
How do you compete against a 19-team conference?
Well, I mean, that's the thing, Dirk. I mean, what you have are a few mega conferences and then the rest of the playing field. And to be honest, again, as we started this off, talking next year, universities are allowed to pay players as well.
Yeah.
This pretty much should kill the current system of college football. Teams like Wyoming have no business being in that division.
Let them be there if they want to be. I guess if you want to waste your money, go ahead. But my point here is that you need to end the bowls that happen outside of the college football playoff.
Yeah.
And that actually fixes both things. Do you know what I'm saying? Start the college football playoff right before Christmas, and then you end sometime in mid-January January.
Right.
After maybe 3 rounds, maybe 4 rounds if they continue to expand this. But each of these rounds, each of these games should just be named bowls and maintain that as the bowl system.
Right.
Getting into the tournament. Did anybody watch the Jackson State Bowl?
No.
Did anybody watch any of these bowls? Because I didn't watch one bowl game this year out of interest.
But here's the thing, Dirk. I mean, if you're going to do that, I think it makes perfect sense. Your top subdivision consists of all the mega conference schools, and then open a second one so that the other schools have something to actually play for. You know what I mean?
I still think relegation's a great system.
You can relegate too. I mean, but it just there is no way in this, because it's now professional sports. It's not college sports. There is absolutely no way someone from the outside group is ever going to win that tournament.
Well,
it's not going to happen.
There needs to be a sophisticated profit-sharing arrangement amongst the universities. And the reason is because they're sharing right now in the liabilities, right? They're all part of these lawsuits and having to pay the settlements out of this and pay millions of dollars that they're actually going back to taxpayers most of the time and asking legislators to pay for this. They need to be sharing in the profits too. Do you know what I'm saying? And that makes it more competitive. But it is a long thing for the long haul in the future. But my point, biggest out of all of this, let's just end those. If you want to have the famous Idaho Potato Bowl, have it be as a part of the first round. Do you get what I'm saying?
Move the Pop-Tart Bowl into the playoffs.
And then, you know what? We can have the Toilet Bowl played here in this parking lot.
I'm in. We'll announce it. Buford Sports Network.
Buford Sports. A half hour later on this segment.